Aloha, welcome to the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. We're on the North Shore filming the action live from Pipeline. If you were here yesterday, I had some solid Waimea action going down. We've seen that northwest swell trending down today. Conditions continue to improve along the North Shore. Really looking at a nice day for pipe. Started off a little bit wonky, but conditions have been improving over the last hour or so. Still have about 8 feet of swell at 13 seconds out of the northwest, so plenty of energy out there, solidly into the double overhead range. Still a couple waves capping on second reef and rolling into the first reef at Pipeline. I'm lead forecaster Schaller Perry. You're going to have Kevin Wallace, the director of forecasting, jumping in just a bit, but right now on the line we have Reef McIntosh. How you doing, Reef? Yeah, you been getting any sleep? Yeah, fresh off. How old's that baby now? 2 weeks old? Oh, good stuff. All right, well, yeah, sleep when you can. So, what do you think of the conditions out there today?
It looks like it's improving. I don't want to say like usual pipeline's never really that good in the morning early, but 9:30, as soon as the sun kind of pops out, it looks a lot better and things start to come together. So, I mean, it looks fun to me. I'll take that any day.
Yeah, not quite this the runner that you have. It looks like we had the 2012 wave of the winter. Your wave there.
Yep. I mean, that actually wasn't even a good day either. That was kind of just like a random lucky wave, and that was that. You never know when a wave like that is going to come through. But yeah, I'll keep that one in the bank for sure.
Absolutely. When was the last time you were over in the islands?
I was there pretty much from January to the end of the Volcom event, and then pretty much come back to Cali and um, not get ready, but just kind of be here and then go back there. I don't want to say I get island fever, but it's kind of nice having both worlds from California and Hawaii. Makes you appreciate each of them in their own ways.
Absolutely, especially when you're taking a look at these waves that we have on tap today. A little slow right
Right.
now, just waiting on a set to come through. But if you're just joining us, yeah, it's the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. Have a nice little shot of northwest swell trending down. Was solid at Waimea yesterday, pretty much washing out the rest of the North Shore. But as we've seen that swell come down and easterly trades return, we got a couple of nice waves on tap. Well, waves spitting there at Pipe.
It looks like a beautiful day in the neighborhood, but that Waimea stuff looked really fun yesterday.
Yeah, what's your
It's
take
always
on
nice.
that? It's kind of funny. You look at it from kind of the angle from across the bay there, and it almost looks approachable.
Yeah, I watched that little highlight reel you guys put together from yesterday, and I mean that angle does approachable, and then there's like that some guys shoot from the other side of the bay, looking kind of behind it and into it, and looks like a slab. It doesn't look very approachable, but
Yeah,
it's cool that you can see Waimea with all those different angles. The best angles in the water, I would have to say.
I
Kind of
could
mind
not
over matter
even
when you're out.
couldn't fathom what it'd be like to have one of those things land on your head.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be in that spot of the lineup when something like that happens. I mean, the only type of scenario like if you paddle for a wave and you miss it and you turn around and there's a big mamba on your head. So
I feel like
you
that's when
can't
you
really
always get the
paddle,
most work though when it's pumping is when you miss one.
yeah, anywhere in the world from Pipeline to Waimea to freaking Newport to HB, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you take a dig at one and then you turn around and you're like, all right, yeah, that was the first wave of the set. Killer.
uh, yeah, paddle hard, head down. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like even if I'm gonna go over, I just go over to kind of protect myself from the one behind me that's gonna land on my head. That's one way you could look at it.
Absolutely. So a lot of people that are tuning into this wouldn't have really have an inkling of an idea of what it would feel like to actually kind of mentally prepare to kind of either get a wave at Backdoor or Pipeline. You want to kind of walk us through a little bit of kind of what you're thinking when you're paddling to a wave out there?
You want the short version or like the detailed version? Because you know, I'm not from Oahu. I'm from Kauai, and obviously there's great waves on all the islands, but there's no wave like Pipeline. So I don't know if I was just a teenager or what, but when you come over to the North Shore and you're in the lineup, I mean, I was scared on the beach, let alone in the lineup because it's a whole different world over there. And it's like lights,
Whole
camera,
different
action
world. Yeah,
board.
all the cameras are out. The
I was
whole
more freaked out by
everybody's
the
just
cameras.
heckling on the beach.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then everywhere you look is like a legend or a superstar. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say you're going to be in the lineup next to them because you'll probably be on the shoulder where you belong, but you can still say you're in the same lineup as them. So that's the type of stuff I had to get comfortable with before even trying to catch a wave. So it just takes time in the lineup out there. So I mean, it might. I mean, I want to say I'm comfortable, but you still have to be like in
On
the
your toes.
zone on your toes to paddle for one. I mean, it's not winter 24 year round, so every season's like kind of like you're starting over again. I kind of take baby steps as I'm entering the lineup. No rush. It's a long winter, so I'm not paddling out first swell head down yelling, "I got it," you know.
Totally. If you're just joining us, this is the Big Wave Logger Live brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. I'm lead forecaster Schaller Perry with Reef McIntosh on the line. We got some northwest swell trending down right now, look just over 8 feet at 13 seconds on the Waimea buoy. Down quite a bit from yesterday in size and looking a lot cleaner for most of the North Shore. You know, things were completely washed out yesterday for everywhere but Waimea for the most part. Couple of really nice waves going down there. But if you're looking around other places, it really just wasn't doing it. As we've seen that swell come down, we've seen easterly trades return, and we have a couple of nice waves happening on this little stretch of reef right here.
Yeah, the crowd is definitely right at Pipeline today. If you were, you know, looking for some late season uncrowded Pipeline right now at about 9:40, you should be out there.
Yeah,
Or you
it
could have
was, I mean, even like 20, 30 minutes
been
ago, there
before
was
that.
probably like
Yeah,
a quarter of the people out, you know? So, I'm sure there are a couple people standing on the beach looking at it and just sussing it out and waiting and seeing and giving it a minute to
exactly.
continue to kind of get more organized. I mean, substantially more organized now than it was even an hour ago. And definitely looking like
100%.
not really too many of those second reef cappers anymore. So if you're trying not to get hit by those, it's probably a good thing.
There we go. Nate Florence, he's up.
A little
He's
chandelier.
not sleeping in. He's up bright and early,
Up and on it.
hung, hungry as ever.
All right, Kevin
Hey,
Wallace just stepped into the booth with us here.
Hey, Reef. How are you?
good morning, Kevin. Oh,
Congratulations, I'll
fantastic.
say, too.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Can
very
you believe this
exciting
guy?
time in
He's
life.
been getting sleep.
You've been getting
Oh,
sleep?
don't say it out loud.
How's that possible?
Oh, maybe it's not sleep. Maybe it's like that half sleep, like zombie thing. But I mean, coffee makes you feel like you had sleep because as soon as you drink your first cup, you're like, okay, I'm up. I had plenty of sleep. I'm fine. Give me some more coffee. So
I
yeah,
pretty much just run with an IV
that would be
of
amazing, right?
coffee these days.
There's a backpack with a gallon in
Yeah,
there. You just take your sips when you want it. Well, it's looking pretty fun out there. I mean, I don't know. What's the weather? Is it going to be a sunny day? I mean, I feel like sun changes everything at Pipeline.
Yeah.
It might
Yeah.
just it might just be in my head, but I feel like as soon as the sun comes out, the waves get better.
Everywhere looks prettier once the sun comes out, pretty much. It seems like the bump goes away and the wind
Yeah.
shifts just a little bit. And yeah, I feel like everywhere kind of looks better.
oh, a little inside track there.
Yeah.
Oh,
So much more inviting when you get the sun on it.
sun and this pulled back angle that you guys provide is really makes it look groovy.
Reef, if you're out there right now, where would you be sitting? What are the waves you're looking for on a day like today? It's a little funky, still a little unruly, but starting to clean up here.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like it's a little mixy. It all depends on what you're looking for. Like, I haven't seen that many rights. I see more lefts than rights. I'd probably just go sit over there in the back. I don't want to give away, too many secrets.
I don't empty to give away too many secrets. That's
I
all
mean,
right.
they're not. It's not really a secret because the lineup's very small. But I'd probably just be sitting back there in the Waikita area,
Yeah.
just cruising, looking for quality over quantity. So I probably wouldn't be catching a lot of waves, but it'd just be nice to be in the water.
The water
And
is
I do not
substantially
know.
warmer.
I do not know if I would be out there just yet. Oh, there's Koa. He's out there. They're out there at 9:40. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be out there yet. But it looks fun, that's for sure.
You've obviously worked your way into the lineup over the years. What was that process like? Kind of finding your way from a young guy from a Grom, and I imagine having to take off on a lot of closeouts to
That's what I was
pretty
just
much
gonna
getting
say.
any wave you want out there now, just about.
I would say the process was a lot of closeouts or a lot of waves that guys either didn't want because it was a closeout or somebody maybe missed. Like you're literally looking at every single wave coming in. I mean, I wasn't sitting by everyone. You're kind of looking for scraps on the side or underneath and trying to stay out of the way of everybody. And just a lot of days where no one's out. And it's just 90% wash throughs, but then, one in a million, you might find a little gem or just putting the time in the water because I like to say she's watching you, and I call Pipeline a she. So she'll reward you over the years. And also, you're trying to build your reputation as like, oh, that's that guy. He was out the other day when it was big. He got a couple crazy ones, or oh, that's that guy that he just goes on anything. So you're out there, but other people are watching you out there as well. So
Sure. Is
you're
there a time that you can remember where like one of the established guys finally called you into a wave, like a proper set that looked really good, that sticks in your mind?
Trying to think. I don't know because when things happen, it just happens. It doesn't. I don't know. I'm not the guy. Put it this way. I don't sit in the lineup. I'm always kind of cruising around,
Yeah.
looking for things. So I'm never sitting there really, and a good one comes. Because most of the time, when a good one does come and you catch it, you're kind of, I don't want to say you're calling someone off, but you have to make it like you have to make like you're going. You have to show effort that like, oh, Reef's going on this wave. He's
Yeah.
paddling hard, or you can tell when Jamie's going or Makua's going because they're the guys that can sit there and just let the wave come to them and turn around and go. To where I'm more of like a cruising around the lineup, kind of looking for whatever. I don't know. I always have like a game plan before I go out in the water on whatever day it is. I'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh, today is going to be firing. I'm going to go sit out there and wait for one. Or it could be like a day like today where there's kind of waves everywhere. So you're kind of like, I'm just going to go out, take my smaller board and just go fishing, kind of look around for whatever I can catch. So yeah, I probably went way off the subject there, but I don't really have one that sticks out in my head that like Sonny or Makua or Jamie was like, go Reef.
Yeah.
I kind of don't like when people tell me to go because I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's kind of
everyone's
funny.
expecting me to go and do it. So I kind of just like when the wave accidentally comes to me and I get it and it's a good one. If that makes sense.
Totally. So the year that you won Wave of the Winter, which is still one of my favorite waves, was down at Off the Wall, just down the stretch a little bit. Was it was it kind of somewhat of a day like today where it was big and a little washy and I mean that's as that's as big and as gnarly as off the wall is pretty much going to get, at least it being rideable.
Without closing out.
Yeah, that wave's insane.
Yeah, it was definitely.
We're watching it actually right now on replay. Is that just were you out just kind of taking lumps and getting killed by different closeouts and wash shoes, or did you get out there and just kind of luck into that thing? Oh, chartered board shorts too, nice. Just noticed that.
So that winter was exponentially slow, like lackluster, nothing. And it was already, I think that was caught like early December, which is still when winter just started. But when you're there from like early October, so by the time December rolls around, you've already been there 2 months and you're kind of jonesing. So
Yeah.
it was, I think they were doing the World Cup at sunset, and it was kind of a northerly swell where sunset was firing. I mean, I wasn't in the contest, so I'm just kind of like hoping there was maybe a window out front. I was just like, you know what? I got 15 new Arakawas. I'm just going to go out because I've been drooling over them all winter. I'm going to take my 6.8 out, literally paddle out, don't catch a wave, caught inside, broke the brand new board.
Oh, no.
So I was pretty upset. I was like, gosh, that board felt so good. You know, you just were so excited for your boards. Anyway, so I went in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to grab this board from the summertime that I had. It was like a 6.6 quad swallowtail from Arakawa. And I'm like, it was just fins in, leash on. So I just grabbed it and went right back out because there wasn't too many guys out. And like I said, it wasn't really good or anything. But by the time I got back out, the lineup had got a little more crowded. So I was like, I'm just going to go off the wall and see what happens. And I actually did catch a little fun wave. I mean, I think Alex Gray was out and Breno. So there was only a couple guys out. And we were kind of just rotating. And I think Breno or Alex just had caught a wave. So I was kind of next for rotation. And I saw my little indicator go off. I'm like, oh man, there's going to be a huge set coming in here. But most of those big sets, they stand up outside and back way off. So I'm like, I'm not going to paddle out too far because I kind of want to be under it. And sure enough, when that wave came, I was like, wait a second, thing's going to break. It's going to cap out here. So I just turned around and I didn't really look down the line much because it was either going to go straight or pull in. So I was like, okay, if it's going to cap, I'm going to roll in and I'm either going to go straight or pull in. So as I stood up, I'm like, oh, there may be a little exit over there, and just, took the bottom turn. And I never really was a big quad guy at the time. So I was just kind of really concerned with the board being small and a quad, but it was the best thing to be on for sure. I don't know if I would have made it if I was on a thruster, because once you get in the barrel, like the quad just squirted out. Like I felt like a thruster kind of maxes out on speed, and that thing was bottoming out to where it squirted me out. And, I just stoked Peanut was up there filming from the Oakley house in a nutshell.
And now is that something, are you riding quads a lot more after that wave?
I was definitely a big believer in them after that wave for sure. So
Yeah.
I definitely put a lot more quads in the quiver.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if I should. Yeah, I'm not going to say this part out loud. I'll keep this part off the record because before I caught that wave, I was entertaining some guests, and I took them down the sunset, and then we came back to the Quicksilver house, and we were kind of having some refreshments, and they kind of left, and I was kind of bored to where like, I guess I'm just going to go out. And then, like I said, I broke my board, but then I caught that wave after the fact, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I would have caught that wave if I was just drinking water all day, So the little liquid courage definitely helped.
Oh, nice.
Turned into a believer on the quad, started riding it a lot more that year.
Actually, I never rode that board again since that wave. I picked that board up nowadays, and I'm like, how did I catch a wave on this board? It feels like a tow board. I mean, what is it? Was it 7 years ago? Yeah, 7 years ago. It's crazy how, I don't know if my boards have changed or boards have changed overall. But yeah, I even picked up that board I caught from Fiji, that 7.4 I was riding. I'm like, how did I catch that wave on this board?
And that's you were riding a 7.4 during the big 2012 swell, is that right?
Well, the Volcom event, yeah, was a 7.4, and
Yeah.
like I said, that's another board that hasn't been ridden since that wave. So I have like a closet on Kauai that those kind of, you have some boards that super memories on. So after those 2 waves, those boards just, they're in a board sock, just, collecting.
Threw them into cold storage.
Yeah, they're on ice. I mean, they'll never be ridden again, but those things where you look at and you're like, oh, it just like flashes you back to that moment.
Yeah.
So good
And that
stuff.
that Volcom swell, the wave you got, that was another one of my favorite waves of that event. It was so cool to see that live streamed after the event went off. The
Oh,
ways that your wave really stand out in my mind, Ian Walsh's wave really stands out in my mind. I mean,
yeah.
everybody's wave, and
Yeah.
then
The whole day was
yeah,
ridiculous.
of
But
course.
that was, you go.
I was gonna say, and then the the one, that wave that nobody caught that almost killed Healy,
Oh my
was, I think that's, to this day, is probably the craziest wave I've ever seen.
right?
Like that
Yeah.
wave, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing when that wave broke.
I'll back you up on that one. That thing
Yeah.
was, I was very happy to be on the boat when that thing came in.
Jeez.
Oh yeah. I almost didn't go on that swell because there was the swell the year before where it was really good and the forecast was a lot bigger. And I was like, me and Fuller were actually in Big Sur for his girlfriend's birthday, and we were actually driving back down that day or whatever. He's like, I'm going tonight. I'm like, I'm over that swell. It's not gonna be as good as last year. And we're driving, or he's in a separate car, and I'm with my wife, and she's like, you should go. I'm like, nah, I'm over it. It's not gonna be like that. And anyway, I don't want to say she talked me into going, but I ended up going, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna start the contest. Frick, I have to watch these guys all day. And then, sure enough, Borg came over on the jet ski. He was like, oh, they're gonna put it on hold. You want to go? I'm like, yes, please. So, I mean, the wind was on it, but things change fast in Fiji.
Yes, they do. You don't like what you're seeing now, wait a couple minutes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. I basically waited like 4 hours out there in the lineup for it to all come together. I knew that Cloudbreak really likes that low to medium tide, and that day was actually the second lowest tides of the year. So I just needed the wind to change. That was a nice wave of pipe.
Water swell in that event.
I think we figured it. You have to estimate the swell size just because you don't have a buoy there. But I think we thought it ended up being like a 13 to 14 at 19 or something like that is what we, based on the swell model guidance, and then
The satellite passes.
yeah, just kind of everything put together. You don't know for sure without that buoy, but and that seems in line with the types of waves we saw. The swell that hit last year, that was last May, it was a little bit bigger deep water swell size, but the swell period was a little bit shorter. That storm actually kind of came up into the Tasman Sea a little bit, and typically when you see that, it's still good, but it's for like a really, really, really good Cloudbreak swell. It can get a little bit funky when the storms get that close. And last year's swell was, it was good, but it wasn't as perfect as the swell in 2012. Even though there's still some really big, really good waves, it was kind of gnarlier, and it wasn't as pretty. It was cloudy and kind of rainy all day, and wind was pretty good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that.
That was a rough day on the boat, put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cloudbreak tends to like that big period.
Yeah. It's been, even just the last 7 or 10 days down there, they've had not like really big Cloudbreak swells by any means, but just really good kind of long period swells, and they've been in that pattern where the wind's been super light, light trades, and maybe a little sea breeze in the afternoon, and then cleaning up again in the evening. There's been some really fun looking, like overhead to double overhead Cloudbreak in the last week or so.
Sounds inviting.
God, it looked dreamy.
Yeah. a couple of those guys down
Oh,
there, like Weiner was calling it. Scott Weiner, one of the photographers that's down there a lot. He was saying it was the best high tide ledge he's ever seen. 2 swells
oh,
ago, something like that. So that's saying something. Weiner's been down there forever, so if he's throwing that out,
yeah.
that's a bold call.
He was there last year because I was there actually 10 days before that big swell,
Yeah.
and there was some amazing days. And then that swell ended up not getting downgraded, and I ended up extending my ticket and staying for the big swell. But even before that, man, it was so good.
Not a bad neck of the woods to be in. Cloudbreak,
Right?
Tabarua area, yeah. It's not too bad.
It compares to this right here.
Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by the Kona Brewing Company. We're on the North Shore, live on the North Shore. We're at Pipeline, and we've got still pretty good size swell. We were live yesterday at Waimea Bay, and solid surf yesterday. You know, still a little bit lumpy. We had north winds, onshore winds throughout the day on Sunday. It was cleaning up through yesterday. It's continued to clean up today. Still a little bit lumpy, but it is improving, and we're seeing kind of better and better surf here at Pipe and Backdoor. Looks like the sun might try and break through here. We've got pretty good wind, like basically straight offshore winds out of the east right now, maybe east, a little bit of northeast or so, but should see the swell decrease through the day and hopefully clean up a little bit. And I think we'll probably see the waves improve as we move through the morning here over the next couple hours. Reef, it sounds like
The
you
boys are
got
slowly
you've got to
starting to
go
wake up
here.
over there.
What's that?
I,
It sounds like Reef, you've got to get back to the
yes.
baby here in a few minutes. So we'll thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your insight on what's going on out here and insight into a couple of those crazy swells in Fiji as well. So we'll say congrats on the new
No
little
problem.
one, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Sounds good, boys. Thank you, Kona. Good doing it.
All right. Well, thanks again to Reef McIntosh for joining us. Again, we're live on the North Shore of Oahu. North Shore of Oahu. This is a Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. We've got still kind of mid to large northwest swell running. It's still a little bit jumbled up, but we've got good winds and conditions, and surf quality has been improving at the pipeline here through the morning. Charlotte, you've been watching this for a little bit longer than I have. What have you seen in the last 30 or so minutes that we've been live? You seen any improvements, any changes?
Yeah, just continuing to clean up. You know, size is trending down. A couple hours ago, there's still a number of waves capping on second reef and kind of rolling in. Seeing a lot less of that. Actually, I haven't even seen one of those in the last half hour. Yeah, looking clean. You know, pretty jumbled and overloaded for most of the North Shore yesterday. Seeing a lot cleaner conditions this morning, and we're going to continue to see things improve through the next few hours. Have that east to east-northeast trade wind flow, that typical favorable wind for the North Shore, and it looks like might even see winds trend a little bit south to east as we move through the back half of the day. So really great winds all day. Swell trending down, so a lot of areas are going to be cleaning up through the day and just have a lot of opportunity.
Well, yeah, we'll hang live here for a little while, but of course you can always check out the HD cams on Surfline. You know, I think this evening local time would be a good time to check it out as well. And always kind of seems to improve as we move through the evening hours. Winds get better, and it should be a nice evening for surf. You know, this swell in particular was produced by this storm that we're seeing here. This kind of second of two purple blobs. As we watch it for the next little while, or the next little blob after that. Here it comes.
This is a updated.
Oh, this is the updated one. This is
Yeah, this is the new.
Mark threw a curveball there to me.
Yeah, so the purple
There we
blob
go.
there. Yeah,
That was the first
slamming
one.
in.
So we're looking at a little different chart than we were yesterday. It's the first of the purple blobs. Then actually, as we look at these next couple that are developing, this one that's developing right here, right now, that's the one we're watching for potential Mavs event on Saturday. Right now, it looks like it'll be maybe a combination of it being a little too small and the wind not looking favorable for the event. So we'll see. No official call on that yet, but something we've been watching pretty close. And for Hawaii here, we had this swell peak yesterday, or actually late kind of Sunday afternoon and evening, and into Monday morning. Still very solid on Monday morning, but was trending down through the day yesterday. We were live at Waimea Bay for a couple hours yesterday, and pretty solid Waimea Bay. Probably 15 to 18 feet local scale. Base heights in the 20 to 30 foot range. A couple bigger ones for sure here and there. Conditions were still a little bit jumbly, especially the normal spots. Those spots that either aren't named Waimea Bay or aren't one of the outer reefs were pretty jumbled, pretty washed out, pretty overloaded yesterday. But the bay had a couple of gems, and things have improved here for those normal spots, those nearshore spots this morning, as that swell has come down, and winds have also gotten better too. There's a little gem right here.
That's a nice wave right there.
Incomplete though, unfortunately.
Judges aren't going to like that.
No, they're not. It's going to be a 2.
We'll have another look at that wave.
Where'd you go wrong here, Scheller?
Negotiates the drop nicely. Looked like it was going to get a nice little doggy door exit right there, and then maybe just
a little chandelier section at the end. Quite staying open.
Didn't duck out quite soon enough.
Yeah. A little bit wobbly, a little bit funky this morning. Local time, we're about 10 o'clock local time now. And stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I think the world knows aloha in different ways. What aloha means to me is to wake up every morning and try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Whether it be big or small, just always trying to move forward. That to me is pretty special.
All right, welcome back. We are live on the North Shore of Oahu from Pipeline. This is a Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. We've got still pretty solid surf here on the North Shore this Tuesday morning local time. Swell, kind of leftovers from a swell that peaked late Sunday and into Monday from a storm that really came very close to the islands over the weekend with 30 to 40 knot winds and even some isolated pockets up to around 50 knots. And saw an XL, the XXL swell rapidly build on Sunday, peak Sunday evening, and still very solid first thing Monday morning. Probably some similar size early Monday to what we saw late Sunday. Conditions were cleaning up yesterday, and we actually were live from Waimea Bay yesterday. Saw some solid surf, and we checked in on pipe a couple times yesterday, Scheller.
It was a mess.
It wasn't happening. It was washing through. It was side shore, wind, breezy, and just kind of a sloppy mess. And things have improved quite a bit today. Still, I wouldn't call this A+ pipeline by any means, but there are a couple gems out there, and we will likely see conditions improve over the next couple hours and probably through the day.
Yeah, I mean, looking pretty good out there for 2-day-old leftovers.
Yeah, take it. Looking through our buoys around the islands, the Northwest Hawaii buoy, what's often referred to as Buoy 1, it's about 270 miles from the North Shore of Oahu. Roughly half day indicator of swell, depending on swell period and swell direction, but usually about a half day indicator. That's at around 7 feet at 12 seconds as of 8 o'clock this morning. The swell is on the way down. Waimea Bay is still bigger than that, holding more energy. And as we mentioned yesterday a couple times, a lot of the nearshore buoys, meaning the Hanalei Bay buoy, the Waimea Bay buoy, and the Pavela buoy off of northern Maui, were actually all just as big, if not bigger, than Buoy 1, which is pretty rare occurrence. And that was a function of how the fetch set up in that storm was kind of better aimed a little bit further east to the buoy one. So it's not often that you see those buoys larger than buoy one, but we were kind of right there yesterday, and we're there again today. Although buoy one is now rapidly coming down, as will most of those nearshore buoys through the day as well.
How are we looking into tomorrow?
This swell is going to drop off significantly into tomorrow. We should see the first signs of a new northwest swell filling in throughout the afternoon, especially. That's going to peak into Thursday, it looks like, late Wednesday and into Thursday. And similar size, actually, to what we're seeing now. I think we're in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 feet at 15 to 16 seconds for swell and swell periods. So another good size swell. Well, the winds don't look as good. Tomorrow morning, first thing, wind looks very light, but we should see east-northeasterly trades pick up throughout the afternoon, become somewhat breezy. So tomorrow afternoon, it's got some potential for sure. And then going into Thursday, that wind might get a little too strong, but we'll see. A little too strong to be ideal, I should say. I think there's certainly going to be some good waves out there, but we'd rather see slightly lighter wind and the direction a little bit different than what we're expecting on Thursday. Right now, it looks like it'll be more east-northeast. Perfect scenario, perfect setup. You see winds that are straight east, even east-southeast to southeast at times, although that doesn't happen a ton. Especially when you start to see more southeasterly winds, that's a good indication that we might have a front sweeping past to the north. And we saw a lot of that actually through the month of January. Had a 3-week stretch in January. We saw excellent conditions, a lot of either light wind days, or light east-southeast or southeast wind days, and a lot of swells that were out of the west-northwest.
That did not stick around into February.
It did not.
February was pretty brutal for the North Shore especially, and then even along the West Coast here. Just a pretty rough month of waves for most of the North Pacific. We saw high pressure setting up kind of in a little bit different place to the north of the islands, and then also had northerly flow from that kind of setting up and just really wreaking havoc on the conditions and keeping strong storms further away from Hawaii. And then also had Kona low setting up and then drifting those towards the West Coast. That was a big reason that we saw all of those atmospheric river events with all the rain and pretty impressive precipitation and snow totals along the West Coast through the month of February. But really wreaked havoc on our surf conditions.
Yeah, I outside I surfed when I was in Hawaii. I surfed a couple times, but I don't think I surfed here in front of Surfline headquarters in Huntington Beach at all in February. It was a rough month for surf.
Didn't you go to the islands pretty much right when the north winds arrived?
Oh yeah. So I flew in. I went over for the Vulcan Pipe Pro. We provided forecast guidance for that event, and the day I flew in, which was Friday the 28th, that was the last day of about a 3-week run of pretty much perfect wind and perfect weather. That when we took off that morning, winds were still great. By the time we landed in Hawaii around midday, wind had shifted to the north. It was cold, and that continued more or less for the rest of the month. There were a couple of days where we had decent wind. Actually, the Vulcan Pipe Pro probably scored the 2 best days in February, thankfully, and they ended up finishing in really pretty good waves. But it was the rest of that month was rough for the North Shore, and even into March it's been pretty rough. And we've seen things turn around a little bit here over the past 5 or 6 days, where we've seen swells trend a little bit more west-northwest, more northwest versus more north-northwest, what we're seeing for a lot of February, and we're at least seeing some more manageable wind days. It's not straight on shore anymore, which has been good to see.
A couple of nice waves coming through. Look at that.
Derek Ho. Uncle Derek. Well, still a little lumpy and bumpy for sure. I'm not seeing a ton of waves being made right now, but do expect conditions to improve really over the next couple hours and through most likely through the day as that local wind improves, as the swell comes down a little bit, and as we see some of the shorter period energy mix out as well. That when that storm came so close, one of the reasons the swell was so big was because that storm was so close. But a lot of times what happens when you have a storm and a fetch that is that close to your location, in this instance, obviously Hawaii, is it's only, in this case, I mean, the same storm set up the northerly wind on Sunday, so it had a lot of the short period energy just mixing in on Sunday, Monday, and even into today. And so that's what's given it some of the wobble and warble out there.
Yeah, still looking at the Waimea buoy report, still 4.3 at 10. So that kind of shorter period energy is down a bit from yesterday, but still in the mix there. Primary swell that we have running, though, 8.4 at 13 seconds from the northwest. So still some good energy on the Waimea buoy. Really down significantly from yesterday, but still plenty of size on tap.
I think we were Waimea buoy yesterday morning. I think we were still like 17 at 16 in the morning or something
Yeah,
like
16
that.
and a half at 17 first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that's one of the larger swells of the year. The really big swells that stand out in my mind. The very end of November, the swell that the Jaws or the Piahi Challenge was run on. That was the biggest, cleanest swell of the year. And we had a couple follow-ups about a week later, kind of around December 5th, 6th. Certainly wasn't nearly as big as that swell, but was pretty solid. We had some fairly sizable swells all the way through January, along with good conditions. Nothing that was, maybe had one XL swell. A couple of those days where pipe got really big, and we're seeing a lot of second and third reef waves. And then, the biggest swell of the year was on February 10th. It was a Sunday. It was unfortunately very stormy, but we saw the largest significant wave height readings ever on several of the buoys, on the Honolulu Bay buoy and the Waimea buoy. It was a giant swell from an intense storm that was super close, not unlike the one we just saw here, but that storm a little over a month ago was a fair bit stronger.
And what was that, the peak reading on Waimea on that one?
They were both. Honolulu was, I think, 30 at 15, and I think Waimea, I can't remember if Waimea cracked 30 or not. Maybe Honolulu was even a little bit bigger than that, 31 at 15 or something like that. And then the Waimea Bay buoy was at least 29, and it might have cracked 30 feet as well. So, Waimea Bay buoy observations go back to around 2002, I believe. The Honolulu Bay buoy observations go back to 2013. So, not necessarily like 50 years of buoy data, but still, the biggest.
Decent record there.
Yeah, that's still really impressive.
And that sounds about right, though. Looking at kind of doing the winter outlook, I had a gander at the kind of top 100 events for a point just north of the islands.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was right around 29 feet.
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. It might have actually wasn't filtering for direction when I just initially looked. And the largest reading was actually from Hurricane Iniki.
A 92.
Yeah.
It was. I know there was the other. I think the previous peak on the Waimea buoy, if I'm correct, there was a really big swell before the Eddy swell in 2016. Actually, about a week before. Again, it was just kind of a stormy swell, so they didn't really run. But it was, I want to say Waimea Bay buoy was 28 at 17 or something like that. Really, really big kind of stormy swell. And then fortunately we got another swell about a week after that, but with much better conditions. And that's when the Eddy was run in mid-February, maybe late February of 2016, and probably the largest surf they've ever seen for an Eddy. It was, that morning especially, was consistently closing out the bay, which really only happens once the surf gets above about 40-foot faces. So it was a little bodyboard run over there. Little one, is he going to pinch? Nice. Popped right through.
A couple of gems coming through. If you're just joining us, we're welcome to the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. We're coming at you live from Pipeline. Have some solid but easing northwest swell, just above 8 feet of deep water swell at 13 seconds on the Waimea buoy. Surf still solidly up into the double overhead range, occasional sets. Still pushing triple overhead plus at times, and really just continues to improve out there. Conditions still a bit wobbly and pretty raw first thing this morning, seeing quite a few waves rolling through from second reef. Those aren't really happening as much anymore, and we're starting to see a couple of really nice waves unload there on first reef.
Yeah, not a bad day to be in the water. The crowd is relatively manageable, I'll say, right now. And sun's trying to pop here. Happens a lot on the North Shore. You'll see kind of funky morning sickness. Winds have maybe been swirling around from the night before. It might be a little cloudy in the morning, and you don't see. It's rare that you see a lot of people down patrolling at Pipe, especially, because it just tends to be a little weird in the morning, and usually gets better as the morning progresses. We had Reef McIntosh on with us a little bit earlier, and he mentioned that it always seems to get a little bit better when the sun gets on it. The sun comes up over the mountains and usually hits the water, I think, I want to say around kind of 8:30, 8:45, something like that. And you tend to see conditions improve through the morning as the sun comes out, and then you often really see conditions improve in the evening hours as well. We aren't going to be live that whole time, but if you want to check out Pipe and Backdoor this evening local time, you can check out Surfline, and we've got a number of different angles that you can see, and should be some good waves out there still this evening. Oh,
No doubt. Be a couple of fun waves spilling over into tomorrow morning, too. Looks like winds are light early, and then new long period northwest swell filling in throughout the back half of the day, although winds looking tomorrow afternoon?
they don't look great. They look okay. It look like they'll be picking back up. It'll be trades, but have a little bit more north in it. So east northeast trades. Today we're pretty much straight east, and may even trend east southeast towards the end of the day. So it should be some windows tomorrow. It'll be interesting to watch late tomorrow as that new swell starts to fill in with longer period energy. Pipe does well on that longer period stuff, and here you can see the activity that's been going on in the North Pacific. The blob that's hitting Hawaii now, that's the swell that peaked late Sunday and a Monday, and we've got a bunch more activity to the north of Hawaii over the next 48 to 72 hours. This purple blob in particular north of Hawaii is going to send a large swell towards the west coast this weekend. We're monitoring that pretty close for the Mavs event to run on Saturday. Right now, I think it's probably borderline for size, and winds don't look especially good either. Looks like it'll be onshore all day on Saturday. Direction of the onshore winds isn't horrible for Mavs, west-northwest to northwest. It is doable, but it doesn't look like certainly doesn't look like an A or probably even a B day at Mavs on Saturday. It looks like more of a C day. So I think it's unlikely that the event will run, but still something we're going to watch here for the next 24 hours and see how we do. And there's a small possibility that the event could run at Mavs on Saturday. And once we get past that, not many opportunities. The event window closes the end of the month, end of March, and right now we're not seeing anything that looks especially good after that. Kind of a maybe mid-sized swell around the 29th, 30th, but pretty north in direction, and doesn't look nearly big enough, at least what we can see right now, for the event to run.
Yeah, outside of XL swell, though, it doesn't look like the North Pacific is going to entirely shut down just yet. It does look like it could stay pretty active into at least the beginning of April. Not outstanding swell production and not XL, but for your average surfer out there that's just trying to get a couple waves and have a little fun and not be terrified by Mavs or Waimea, looks like it should be some opportunity.
Yeah, and we've got some Southern Hemisphere swell as well, yeah?
Yeah, actually, a little bit of Southern Hemisphere swell on the water now, but right now have a zonal, so aiming kind of the strongest winds over towards South America, but a pretty good low to the southeast of New Zealand right now. Pretty large storm system, very strong, really a pretty good sized pocket of 40 to 45 knot plus winds. So looking at that, sets up long period swell for the West Coast and the Americas as we move towards the last few days of March. So yeah, a couple long period southern hemisphere swells on the way, it looks like.
Yeah, we had fun waves here on the West Coast in Southern California, especially yesterday, and there was a window this morning. Did you get any waves this morning?
I got a couple, but dropped the Grom off at daycare, and by the time I got to the beach, the wind was coming up out of the south as anticipated.
Yeah.
But still got out there, got a couple, and nice to surf consecutive days. I don't think I surfed the month of February, and I've surfed the last 4 days.
Four in a row, nice.
Yeah,
That's
got a little streak going.
That's funny. You get on those, and then you don't want it to stop, and you just be like, it's not that good, but I just want to surf. I got on a couple of heaters last summer, and it was fun. It helped that the water was like 78 degrees.
Yeah, you don't really like
in Southern California,
wetsuits.
too, yeah. Like, what am I? I'll just go paddle.
Well, yeah, we got a nice little combo setting up for the West Coast, especially for Southern California as we move into tomorrow. The swell that's trending down here, that is en route to the West Coast. We'll see that trending up for areas north of Point Conception through the afternoon today. Be building for Southern California overnight into tomorrow, and then peaking for us down here late in the day tomorrow, and then kind of holding pretty good energy into Thursday. So we have that, a little more southern hemisphere swell on the way as well. I was looking down at the cams in Cabo. Looks like some couple of fun waves coming through down there. Always a good one-day indicator for Southern California surf. So that'd be a couple of waves around. We are going to see some precipitation, even potential for a couple of thunderstorms around Southern California tomorrow.
Cool.
So winds not great across the board, but it looks like there should be some windows again tomorrow morning, and at least into the middle part of the day before winds build out of the west in the afternoon.
We're south wind in the morning.
That's kind of variable depending on where you are, but east to southeast. So I wouldn't be too surprised you wake up a couple areas and see lightly offshore wind first thing.
We just got to worry about it. We got what's like 6 foot high tide tomorrow, 10ish, later than that.
Just
Earlier.
before 10.
I'm just scheming what I'm going to surf right now.
Plotting your day.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud.
Move some meetings around.
I'm sure that's what everybody wants to hear.
Let's see. We have a 6 foot high tide just after 9 a.m. So, yeah, that's going to be a little bit wonky for a lot of breaks, but some of the areas that like westerly swells will be just fine. So there'll be some waves around.
We got some sets stacking up. I like this pullback view. Definitely makes things look a little bit cleaner. When you zoom in, you can see that the lump of warble. Little inside section there.
That guy got lit up on the inside there. Oh, just a nice day.
It's really turning into a beautiful morning there.
If you're just joining us, welcome to the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. We're here live coming at you from Pipeline. Got some northwest swell in the water, just over 8 feet at 13 seconds on the Waimea buoy, translating to solidly double overhead surf here at Pipe. Couple waves going down at Backdoor now, too. It was pretty much just shutting down first thing this morning, but we've been seeing size gradually trend down, and conditions continue to improve. Yesterday, it was pretty much washed out across the North Shore. Outside of Waimea, we were live from Waimea yesterday. If you happen to join us, thanks, and nice to see you again. But as we move through the afternoon, going to continue to see nice easterly winds. Surf continue to clean up for most breaks across the North Shore. A lot of opportunity. Winds, easterly trade winds right now, even trending a little bit south of east through the end of the day. So for the North Shore, that is just about straight offshore and really sets up nice, clean conditions through the afternoon today.
I know the wave of the winter has officially ended. It's an O'Neill wave of the winter officially ended. But we gonna get any candidates today, you think? For bragging rights, right? Local bragging rights. What do you think?
I think right now we're kind of below criteria.
I'm thinking so too.
I think we're a little below criteria. Maybe there's probably a couple people out there that might get their wave of the winter.
Yeah.
But
That's all that matters.
Official O'Neill wave of the winter candidates, I don't think so.
Yeah. So we were we went through a couple of these yesterday as well, and it was a really impressive year for Wave of the Winter entries, candidates. I think all of the
Well, especially when you completely chop out the month of February.
yeah, all of the top 10 Wave of the Winter, entries, candidates, whatever you want to call them, I think could potentially win many of the other years. The standouts, of course, we had Mark Healy's Wave in the end of November, and Cam's Wave as well. We'll run through some of these right now. So again, we had a couple different flurries of swells throughout the throughout the season.
There's a couple waves from just after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So we had this swell. This was the same swell that the Jaws event eventually ran on, kind of on the way up and the way down.
Yeah, you see it just on the way up through the day there on the 25th. That's just like lighting the end of the day. You just see
there's Healy's Web. Rolled in from way out the back, out by off the wall, and just a screamer of a wave. I think when most of us saw this, whether it was
just the lighting, that contrast to that board.
Yeah, that wave blew up social media for a while, broke the internet, and I think most people thought it was done and dusted there. And then Cam Richards gets this wave about a week later, just a crazy one on like a 9-foot board or something like that his dad shaped. It was a flurry of early season activity here, and then we had to wait a little while until around mid-January, and then we saw that stretch of waves that were just insane. Tyler's wave, I didn't see this at the time. I actually didn't see this wave until recently, and then here's the one. As good as big and as crazy a pipeline wave as you're ever going to see. Kato's wave was just as big as it's ever going to be at First Reef. That was just a giant wave.
That's Rory holding it down for backdoor there.
Yeah. Kona win last year? No. Okay. Never mind. That's right. So those are the finalists for Wave of the Winter, and
It kind of feels like you always have perennial contenders, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it was really an impressive season, and it's going to be fun to see who wins that.
Yeah, and if you happen to be on Oahu or want to go check out the Wave of the Winter Awards party, there is a nice little shindig going on Thursday, March 28th at the Republic. Gonna have Ron Artis II and The Truth. That'll be Thursday, March 28th. Doors open at 6:30. That's at the Republic, located 1349 Kapiolani Boulevard in Honolulu.
I heard Ron Artis goes off.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm sure he's probably pretty good though. He's playing in the Wave of the Winter party. We're not going to skimp on that.
That's the truth.
Yeah. A little thirsty right now. I wish I had just a delicious Kona beer to quench my thirst. On that Fire Rocks, the pale ales.
Doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Yeah. And on that note, we'll be right back.
With another word from our sponsor.
I think the world knows aloha in different ways. What aloha means to me is to wake up every morning and try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Whether it be big or small, just always trying to move forward. That to me is pretty special.
All right, we are back. Welcome back, and welcome to Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by the Kona Brewing Company. We are live on the North Shore of Oahu at Pipeline, the Pipeline, and we're seeing fairly solid surf. Sun's starting to pop. Wind's pretty good. Swell's a little jumbled still, but there's a couple diamonds in the rough this morning. We expect it to continue to get better through the morning and likely even into the afternoon. The swell was, we're actually on the tail end of the swell, kind of leftovers now. Still obviously good size though. And
Wakita having a dig.
Oh, and he gets roasted. with this swell came up very quickly on Sunday through the afternoon, went from 0 to 100 in just a matter of a few hours, peaked kind of late Sunday and into Monday morning. We were actually live from Waimea Bay yesterday with very solid surf at Waimea Bay. The rest of the North Shore, with the exception of the outer reefs, were pretty much washed through and closed out. But a couple of gems at the bay too. Again, it wasn't not the most perfect of conditions. We've got some short period north-northwest swell mixing in with the longer period swell. Winds yesterday and winds on Sunday were generally poor. We had straight north winds, straight onshore winds out of the north. That improved late Sunday and especially Monday, trending more northeast to east-northeast through the day. And winds continued to get better today. And we're basically at straight easterly winds, which is side offshore and really turn into a beautiful morning here, especially this pulled back look. You can see the skies clearing a little bit, some blue sky on the horizon, and a little warbly out of Pipe, but a couple of gems too.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be complaining to be out in the water on the North Shore today.
No, it'd be, it was still pretty unruly this morning. We're still seeing some waves capping and on the second reef and washing through a bit, but it's gotten smaller and more manageable for the average surfers out there. Although maybe not still. I'm still not saying all the average surfers are going to go out because it's still pretty good size, but it is slowly becoming more manageable and continue to do so through the day.
Yeah, just really impressive to see how much cleaner it is today than the wash throughs that we were looking at here yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, we cut Pipe a couple times during Waimea Bay Live yesterday, and the lineup was just a mess. It was far too big for Pipe to handle, and Pipe is one of the last kind of near shore spots to be able to handle the swell before it just completely starts closing out. But it was far too big yesterday, just a big washed out and washed through mess. So it's nice to see the change. We're roughly half the size of yesterday, probably. The Waimea Bay buoy yesterday was in the 16 at 17 foot range, 16 feet at 17 second range yesterday morning, and we're a little over half that now. I think we're about 8 at 13 now, something like that. So it is much more manageable, much more in control, and the trend is a decreasing one. Our half-day indicator is Swell, the Northwest Hawaii buoy, buoy 1, as it's often referred to, about 270 miles northwest of Oahu. Half-day indicator, and that's dropping off pretty quickly this morning. That's a good indication that the surf is going to be trending down throughout the day on the North Shore.
Yeah, trending down, but conditions looking really nice through the afternoon. We have these easterly trades trend even a bit south of east as we move through the end of the day, straight offshore for the North Shore. They're setting up a fun afternoon of surf over there.
Yeah, we'll take a look at our backdoor view here. Haven't seen many backdoor waves yet today. It seems like things are kind of clamping on most of the backdoor waves and even a lot of the pipe waves too as a function of that swell period coming down a little bit from the dominant longer period energy, and then just some of that short period north-northwest swell mixing in too. Just got things a little bit funky, but here and there, some good looking waves.
Absolutely. So we got this swell that is trending down in Hawaii on the way over to the West Coast. If you're listening from California, we got NorCal will be coming up. So spots north of Point Conception will be on the rise before dark today. Surf builds overnight for Southern California. We got a nice little shot of west-northwest swell. One of the things that has driven this swell to be so large and raw for Hawaii was how close it got to the islands, how far south it dropped. That also means it's going to be quite a bit more westerly in direction, which is a great thing for Southern California. Most of our winter swells a lot steeper in direction, so we have a pretty significant chunk of that energy just chopped off by Point Conception and the offshore islands. With this swell coming in, I think peak direction right around 280 degrees. That is very west and really a nice direction for a lot of spots across Southern California. So plenty of chest ahead high plus waves, even a couple of breaks going well overhead as we move through the day tomorrow into Thursday morning. So
we also have a little opposing swell from a different direction too, don't we?
There's also going to be a little bit of southern hemisphere swell out there. Had a nice pattern set up about 7 to 10 days ago in the central South Pack. Had a series of not overly strong storm systems, but moderate strength storms move through that area and set up a nice little run of early season southwest swells. Nothing too large, no backdoor gems like that going down, but yeah, seeing a couple of at least rideable southern hemisphere swells. We had such a rough February that it's been really nice. The last kind of 4 or 5 days had a bit of swell run and conditions pretty nice until today. And we're starting to see a bit of a transition. We're going to see a storm move into the region tomorrow. That sets up some rain, some variable winds, but there should be a couple windows to get a few waves. As we move into Thursday, as that storm system clears out, we're going to see northwest winds for most of Southern California. So unfortunately, with that nice little combo swells running, we're going to have some northwest winds on it. Always a shame to see that, but breaks that have some wind blockage, tucked away spots that face the south should be pretty fun through the day tomorrow. Probably the best opportunity to get a couple waves.
And then we've got some swell lining up this weekend too. I know we've got, so it's northwest wind up along through the Northern California area. And are we the same for Southern California?
It's a little tricky for Southern California right now. The models are trying to spin up kind of some east to southeast winds. So there
like
could be
an Eddy or?
It's not quite, but it's trying to figure it out. It's always models have a difficult time as we move into the spring, getting their handle on when we're going to see Eddy spin up. But yeah, we're going to have high pressure off the coast, so there is some potential for. We'll see whether we end up having the more favorable, like a east to southeast wind versus that straight southerly flow. Mm-hmm. So a little dicey for winds this weekend, but again, another nice shot of west-northwest swell for Southern California.
Well, and for those that might not know, in Southern California, a lot of times we'll say an eddy, that refers to a coastal eddy or a Catalina eddy, and that typically happens, I'll throw in the big claim out there, that typically happens when we see breezy northwest winds in the outer coastal waters, so outside of the Channel Islands, and then you get almost like a little localized area, low pressure within the islands, and you have winds spinning back up the opposite direction. We're going to have a look back at this little cover up, and that's not bad. All right,
nice
I might forgive the claim.
Nice little wave.
Yeah.
We said there might be somebody out there getting their wave of the winter.
Yeah, he's stoked. And so we'll see southerly winds spin up within Southern California. That typically happens most frequently for Orange County and San Diego, although it can certainly affect and impact Los Angeles area as well, and even up into Ventura. It's kind of like, think about water running around rocks in a stream, and you've got the mean direction of that water flow.
A little bend in the river, and you have this nice little area where you can hop in. And I mean, some places you go and actually go back upstream if you hop into the eddy, and that's pretty much what we have along the coast of Southern California when these spin up. It looks like, so latest charts looks like stronger southerly flow on Sunday, though we'll have to just wait and see as we get into the range of the high resolution models. I don't really trust the long range global weather models as far as I can throw them a week out for southerly eddy winds.
Yeah. So it's a localized phenomenon, and it can be a difficult to. It's what I think probably one of the more challenging things during, and they most generally happen during the spring. So starting about now through June-ish or so. Once we get past June, we don't see them with the frequency that we do in late March, April, and May. Although they certainly can occur. It can make a communication of a forecast or report pretty difficult, as I know you know, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing, it just comes down to the fact that just a little bit more south in the wind, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees, makes a huge difference. If there's just a little bit of east in that southerly wind, it's almost like a side offshore or even lightly offshore, and it's completely manageable. As it trends just a little bit more south, it just shreds most of the lineups through Southern California, especially through Orange County and San Diego. The South Bay is blocked from that. It's usually not quite as bad up through places like North LA or Ventura. And I mean, sometimes you can even have almost easterly flow up there.
Like light wind days.
Light wind days. Winds will stay light into the afternoon. So it's yeah, and they're always a little bit different, and the models never usually nail it.
Yeah. And it's, the other interesting thing too is the difference of a couple knots, say 2 to 4 knots, it does make all the difference in the world. If it's 4 to 5 knot south wind in Orange County or good chunks of San Diego, not a little crumble, but it's not too bad.
It's okay. It
Yeah.
doesn't look terrible. You're not going to
Yeah.
write it off completely. But if it's
8 to 10,
6, 7
Yeah.
even, you get like 7, 8 knots, and everybody writes it off. Although, I think the nice thing about the Eddy when they spin up is you generally have at least a window as winds go from south to west northwest to the sea breeze in the afternoon. So if you're keen, if you're on it, you can usually at least score at least a partial cleanup.
Yeah, like mid morning a lot of times you get that. We mentioned it here, the morning sickness you see on the North Shore a lot of times. We see that a lot in the spring and maybe early summer months in Southern California too, where it's overcast and you get a little south wind early in the morning. It's just kind of funky, and then
Sun comes out.
yeah, mid morning wind lightens up before it goes trending from that eddy south wind to before the sea breeze really kicks in, and you get a little window. A lot of times you get an hour-long window where things really improve pretty dramatically. A lot of times too, in the spring, we'll see low tides very early in the morning, and so the tide comes back in, and it's just a whole series of events that happen that can change and improve the surf conditions through the morning.
Yeah, really turn things around.
Yeah.
Goes from a complete write-off to something you don't want to miss.
Yeah. That's one where with all of our reports on the site, actually, we do offer a short-term forecast that hopefully addresses those potential changes and hopefully gives good information for people to make informed decisions and help you know when to go surf.
What would your short-term forecast for the North Shore be right now?
Short-term forecast, it would be for gradually decreasing surf, for trades to kick in a little bit more, and for surf to generally improve over the next, say, 6 to 8 hours. And then, a safe short-term forecast for the North Shore is that it's probably going to get at least a little bit better every evening around 5 o'clock.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. And going to get a little bit better for potentially a lot of different reasons. Maybe you're cracking a Kona. I don't know. Maybe the wind gets a little bit better. Maybe the swell pulses. You get that golden light. It's a little bit of everything, and it's all getting a little bit better.
Oh, somebody deep behind the curtain there. Not gonna make it out. A nice looking set rolling through. Eaten alive by the foam ball there.
Still just a little warbly, little wobbly. Couple, but it's tough to make them. A lot of them, we've been clamping. And again, a function of slightly shorter period dominant swell. We're down around 13 seconds or so. Pipeline really prefers a longer period swell, and prefers a swell direction that's a little bit more west than what we're seeing now. This is a very broad angled swell. Actually, the storm was so close. You have energy really anywhere from about 315, 320 degrees all the way up to around 360 degrees. So you're kind of seeing swell from all these different angles, and then we have some localized short period northwest swell in the mix too. So it's not perfect at pipe by any means. A couple here and there, but in a perfect world, we'd have that single dominant long period swell. It'd be more west northwest. Very similar to what we saw for about 3 weeks in January when we saw a number of the Wave of the Winter entries.
Yeah, didn't see any of it in February.
We did not. No, it was a lot of north wind in February, a lot of days with shorter to mid-period northwest to northwest swells, and unfortunately just a poor month of surf.
Pretty solid, like northeast swells.
Yeah, that was actually, there were a couple of interesting moments on the various sides of the island with given the wind and given the swell directions, and as you mentioned yesterday, Shaw, that's a good thing about being on an island is it's pretty much always offshore somewhere. So you can go and find waves. You just hope that the side of the island that's offshore has a little bit of swell getting in.
Like a lot of times in February, it didn't.
It didn't line up a whole bunch. There were some magic windows, but they were fleeting. That is for sure.
It wasn't like the month of February for the Sierra Nevadas.
No, that was like a triple XL winter for Mammoth and Tahoe and the rest of the Sierra. It's all part of the same pattern as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, those cut off Kona lows really hampering the local weather there in the islands. You had high pressure kind of setting up just to the northwest of the islands and just driving northerly flow. And then as those Kona storm systems, those Kona lows drifted towards the west coast, and then we had storm systems dropping down out of the Gulf of Alaska, really right along the west coast. It was just sucking those cut off lows right up into the state of California, and just that was the tap to our to the subtropics, and really what drove all those atmospheric river events.
That's a pretty shot right here. The color of that water, and sun's getting on a little bit. You can see some sets starting to stack up out the back. See if we see any movement from the pack here. Yeah, just turning into a beautiful day on the North Shore. And again, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by the Kona Brewing Company. We are live on the North Shore of Oahu at the Pipeline, and seeing a few pretty good waves out here. A little mixed up still this morning, but improving from what we saw early this morning when it was still really quite large, and seeing waves wash through from second reef, and still pretty unruly, and things are improving, and boy, that looks pretty right now.
Yeah, just kind of cleaning up by the minute. I had Reef McIntosh on earlier, joined us for a bit there. He had to step off. He's got a 2-week-old there. He's got to help attend to, and yeah, it's just like it's been cleaning up by the minute. It's also definitely trended down in size since we've been live.
Yeah, down by several feet. I think we're, for the most part, we're kind of in the anywhere from overhead to double overhead, probably 6 to 10, maybe 8 to 12 foot faces, something like that. And
not seeing nearly as many of those waves rolling through
the big waves,
larger sets.
That's kind of what we were seeing yesterday. We were actually live yesterday as well from the North Shore. We were in a different location. We were at Waimea Bay, where we had solid surf. We were live in the morning for a couple hours, and we're probably somewhere in the 15 to 18 foot range Hawaiian scale. So 25 to 30 foot faces or so, a couple bigger sets. First thing yesterday morning, there were a couple of sets that were closing out the bay, which typically doesn't happen until it's about 40 foot on the face or a little bit bigger. So there were some bombs. The swell came up very quickly through the day on Sunday. Went from not much going on early to very, very large by the end of the day. And the swell peaked late Sunday and was still holding very good energy into yesterday morning, Monday morning, and gradually decreased yesterday. Poor wind conditions on Sunday as the swell came up. We had straight onshore northerly winds. That did improve yesterday as winds trended more northeast to east-northeast through the day, and winds have continued to get better today. We're basically looking at straight east winds now, which if you're looking at our screen right here, coming from right to left, blowing across your screen, almost down in the right-hand corner towards the top corner. Side offshore to offshore wind, one of the east trades, very good wind for most North Shore breaks. Not quite the perfect wind. Perfect wind for most spots is east-southeast to southeast, but a very good wind nevertheless, and really beautiful conditions this morning. Cool. Well, we're going to wrap up. Again, we've been live on the North Shore. This is the Big Wave Lager Live, brought to you by Kona Brewing Company. Been a lot of fun watching the waves at Pipe today, talking to Reef McIntosh. Shalar, pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll say aloha.
I think the world knows aloha in different ways. What aloha means to me is to wake up every morning and try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. whether it be big or small, just always trying to move forward. That to me is pretty special.
priority.
To me is to wake up every morning and try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Whether it be big or small, just always trying to move forward. That to me is pretty special.